guys. This is Comic Boom, and we are here to review issue Flash number 21, which is part 2 of the Button. If you want to see the part 1 of the Button, that was in Batman 21. That was in part 1 was in Batman 21. Part 2 is in Flash 21. So Magic 21. It's easy to remember. It carries on the story that began in Rebirth. And the Watchmen button has made an appearance. We've already seen how Batman got the stuffings kicked right out of him by the Reverse Flash. And last issue ended with, of course, the death of the Reverse Flash. Barry Allen showing up at the Batcave to discover an unconscious Batman and a dead Reverse Flash. And the mystery here continues to build. This issue is beautifully illustrated. Again, it's got another great artist who is a Howard Porter. His art, the artistic, his art is a little bit. It's definitely different than Jason Fabok's. I think that maybe the visual continuity from part 1 in Batman 21 to Flash 21, I think it's a little jarring, but you can get used to it, and it makes it easier to get used to it. Simply because Howard Porter is a very good artist in his own right. He's an A-lister, just like Jason Fabok. So these are good artists. They're just different styles. So art's subjective, but it's a little bit of an adjustment, I think. At least it was for me. But it took me only about 30 seconds to a minute to become accustomed to it, because the detail in the art is really, really good. And it tells the story that Joshua Williamson wants to tell really well. Batman 21 was written by Tom King, and that essentially was an issue that took place in 60 seconds that essentially involved Batman trying to hold off an attack from the Reverse Flash, who seemed to be attracted to the Watchmen button. And Batman doesn't really understand what the fascination with the Watchmen button is, but it seemed to have a strange reaction to the Psycho Pirate's mask. And then the Reverse Flash shows up at the Batcave, ostensibly wanting to kill Batman, and then also being intrigued and stealing the Watchmen button. And of course, the Reverse Flash, after disappearing, after rendering Batman unconscious, he comes back at the end of 21, only to claim that he saw God, and then he basically drops dead, and he's basically a skeleton. So he's pretty much, his whole face is melted off because of his time in the Speed Force. This issue here, it's really good. Joshua Williamson does a really good job of telling us what's going on, and talks and really explores how Barry Allen's forensic skills, as Batman is basically recovering in hospital, or recovering presumably at the Batcave. Barry Allen has already figured out what has happened. Barry Allen has essentially analyzed the crime scene, and he has a fairly good idea what happened. In analyzing the crime scene, Barry Allen has pieced together from all the forensic evidence exactly what has happened at the crime scene. So he knows that Batman was attacked and slowly, deliberately tortured in the attack over that 60 seconds by the Reverse Flash. The question is why? Well, this issue is really good. Where it's going to be, just to sum it up, because there's spoilers in these reviews. Barry Allen discovers that there's residual radiation, and Barry Allen knows that the radiation comes from the Speed Force. And that intrigues Barry Allen, because the Reverse Flash is someone that doesn't gain his powers from the Speed Force. Ur-Bart Thawne, who's the Reverse Flash, got his power from the negative Speed Force. He sort of created a negative Speed Force himself. So the fact that Thawne's body, his corpse, was covered in Speed Force radiation makes Barry ask himself, well, did I kill? And maybe I'm the one that kills the Reverse Flash sometime in the future, but he just comes back and he dies in the present. So that's a possibility. So it's a mystery here. But the only way to really do it is Barry Allen knows that in order to get to the bottom of things, he's going to have to travel through the Speed Force, through time, or through the Speed Force, wherever it takes him, to sort of follow and trace the radiation trail that has been left by Ur-Bart Thawne, the Reverse Flash. And of course, Batman, who's been brutally beaten won't let Barry go alone. He says, you know what, if you're going to do this, this is my case too, Barry. He came back, he ripped up the father you gave me, that was from Thomas Wayne, my father. He took the watch, he took the button. They don't know it's a Watchman button. I'm referring to it as a Watchman button for those of us who know what the Watchman is. But Barry, you're not doing this by yourself. And of course, Barry's of the mindset, well, I should have known better that I could investigate this without you, but that's fine. So him and Batman, they make their way into the Speed Force, and of course they go to the Justice League Tower because it's the we get to see something we haven't seen in a while, and that's the famous Cosmic Treadmill, which we haven't seen in a while, but it's very famous, and Flash uses it to travel into the Speed Force and often back in time and to time travel, and he utilizes that, and of course Batman goes with him. And well, what they do is as they're traveling back into the past, they begin to see what their past actually is. They begin to see through some of the lies, and they see how the Justice League was actually formed, and they begin to see some other things, which to us long-term, as a long-time DC reader, and I've been here through, well, I've been collecting for 40 years. So let's put it this way, there's the New 52 history, there was the pre-Flashpoint history, and then there was Flashpoint, and then there was the New 52, and then there's Rebirth. Well, we got there's different histories of the Justice League. There's different histories of there's slightly different iterations and histories and glitches in terms of the histories of Batman, Flash, Justice League, a whole slew of heroes. And a lot of those heroes are going through those sort of crisis of deception and trying to figure out the truth of their past in the various DC titles. In particular, Wonder Woman going through some lies and trying to figure out the truth of what her background is. Flash as well. Here, we as fans have discovered with Flash in this particular issue that apparently Flash became interested in forensic science when his mom died. Now that's not news. We knew that when Barry Allen's mom was killed. We have always thought that it was his father who was framed for his mother's murder, and he eventually discovered that it was Reverse Flash that killed his mom, and it was Barry Allen traveling back in the past and saving his mom's life that led to the Flashpoint timeline. And when that was undone, and his mom was, of course, he undid that, so his mom actually died. That undid the Flashpoint timeline. That gave rise to the New 52 universe. That lasted for 5 years. Now all of a sudden we have Rebirth, and now all that seems to be being redone. And what we discovered here is that Barry Allen says that his mother's murder was initially a cold case, that he didn't know who killed his mother. No one did. And that's what got him interested as a young boy in cold cases and solving cold cases, was that his mother's was his first cold case. Now that completely contradicts what we know about the Flash's history so far. Because prior to this issue, it's well established, even in the New 52 and even in the Rebirth Flash, that we've always understood that Flash's mother was killed, that initially his father was the suspect, and that his father spent time in jail for the murder of his mother before the truth was discovered that it was actually Reverse Flash. As a matter of fact, that is such a common storyline that it's even utilized on the Flash TV show. Now that's a different timeline, but just to give you some idea as to what they're doing here is so jarringly different. And they just sort of, Barry Allen just mentions it in passing. As if, oh yeah, my mother's case was the first cold case I ever had, and that's what got me interested in forensic science. That contradicts Flash's history. So already something is up. And Joshua Williamson here, he's a really good writer, and I don't think he would make a misstep like that unless it was on purpose. So I think this was a very deliberate, to us careful readers. I think Joshua Williamson, he's putting some Easter eggs in there, and he's cluing us in that something is different. That when this is all said and done, when the Buttons is done, when this storyline's done, this is going to be leading into some changes in what the history of the DC universe is, particularly as it pertains to our the Scarlet Speedster and Batman as well. And on this particular issue, this issue ends on a whopping of a revelation, or more of a real big, very interesting cliffhanger. You can so tell that Joshua Williamson, one of his idols, is Geoff Johns. You can see the Geoff Johns influence in the writing again. Again, that's a high compliment to Joshua Williamson. He does a really good job here. Because the Cosmic Treadmill, while they're traveling through the Speed Force, looking at how time has changed, trying to follow a lead to see where it takes them to get to the bottom of where's the missing button, who's causing all these seemingly changes in their history that they seem to be recalling and remembering again, or what's going on. They end up wiping out somewhere in the Speed Force, and then there's a big explosion, and boom, they wake up and they're in what appears to be the Batcave, but it's not actually the Batcave that Bruce Wayne remembers, but it is a Batcave that Wally West, that it's a Batcave that Barry Allen certainly remembers from his time in the Flashpoint universe, and it is the Batcave of the Flashpoint universe that was utilized by Thomas Wayne, Bruce's father. And the final cliffhanger is that Bruce Wayne and Batman and the Flash end up meeting the Flashpoint Batman, and it's an epic final page, which you can see here, and it really sets things up, and it appears as if just from what has been said, what Thomas Wayne says to him, and that basically he says, "I did all of this because of you, son. I did all of this because of you, son." So you have to wonder, is this something that there's Thomas Wayne, there's the Flashpoint Batman. What is his involvement in with the button? What did he have a role in the death of Reverse Flash? Because for those who may not remember, and if you don't remember, go watch the Flashpoint cartoon. Because it's probably easier and more exciting than reading the comic book. Even if you watch the Flashpoint animated series, that series ended with the Flashpoint Batman killing the Reverse Flash. So one of the things that's out of whack to begin with is that the Reverse Flash was dead anyway. He should have been dead, but he wasn't dead. Somehow he was back to life. And somehow Thomas Wayne's back to life as well, because the whole Flashpoint universe we understood was wiped from existence the moment that the Flashpoint was corrected by Barry Allen, by undoing it, by going back in time and making sure that his mom died, so that the Flashpoint universe wasn't created. So something else is amiss. There must have been some other influence that created all these time aberrations that has led to the situation we have now, where the Reverse Flash pops up and now he's dead again. Now Thomas Wayne, he's from the Flashpoint universe, he's back again. What's going on? These three divergent timelines, the pre-Flashpoint universe, the Flashpoint universe, now the Rebirth universe, all seem to be coalescing in some way and meshing, and histories are getting mixed up and screwed up, and for us longtime fans, we have a lot of questions. There's a lot of Easter eggs in Flash 21, a lot of Easter eggs for us longtime fans, but there's a lot of questions we have too, and there can be frustrating questions, particularly with some of Flash's comments. Even some of what they recall about the founding of the Justice League. Doesn't Flash noticed when they were traveling through the Time Force, or the Speed Force, that they saw images of how the Justice League was formed, and the comment that Barry Allen made to Bruce was, "That's not how the Justice League was formed. That's not what we remember. What's going on?" So they're seeing things that they don't actually recall as happening, and so it's creating a lot more questions. But guys, this mystery is building, and we're only on issue 2. This is really getting exciting, and I think it's easy to follow. For those of you that are just coming on board with Batman 21, with part 1 of the button, and moving into part 2 here, I think it should be easy to follow. You may not appreciate some of the nuance or some of the questions that they're asking, but it's clear, you'll have a clear indication that Batman and Flash are confused as to what they're experiencing. But we, as the readers, I don't think we're as confused necessarily as the characters. For no other reason, I was going to say lithographic cover again. That's not what it is. That's it for my review of the button. If I was to give this a rating, I would give this a solid 7.5 out of 10. It was good. It was good, and I'm looking forward to part 3. And we'll see you guys when that comes out.